There's no one dollar that makes you wealthy. There's no one push-up that makes you fit. It's the slow build, the accumulation effect of all those things over time.
Welcome back to another episode on Find Joy with Joyanne, the podcast that is all about helping you live and lead a life with joy. I'm your host, Joyanne Chuck, and every Wednesday we are giving you access to the world's best and brightest minds in their fields on our show. Listen in as these leaders impart their wisdom, inspiration, and stories to empower you to live joyfully with intention, passion, and purpose, and celebrate the struggles and overcome the challenges we may face each day with the tools and insights that we are going to share with you. Whether you are looking to improve your relationship, find your passion, learn how to embrace the present moment, deepen your spiritual connections, or learn the magic of manifestation and law of attraction to attract more abundance, this podcast is here to guide you every step of the way. As your host, I am also challenging myself to dig deeper to learn and unlearn and ride along with you. We are not here to tell you how to live your life because it is your life. But this life is all that we have right now. So my friend, why not live our life to the fullest? So I hope these conversations and stories will guide and inspire you to live your life to your highest potential and a life that you are proud of as you continue to grow and evolve in your own journey. So if you are ready to start living a more passionate, purposeful, and joyful life, join us every Wednesday on Find Joy with Joyanne for inspirational stories, powerful message, fun conversations, and empowering thoughts with me and my special guests and friends. And now, without further ado, let's dive into today's episode. Our guest today grew up in the financial industry, but also developed a strong background in athletics, nutrition, and performance psychology. He brings a coaching mindset and the heart of a teacher to financial planning and investing. He's Dave Ramsey Smart Wester Pro and owns a boutique financial planning firm, Veritas Wealth Management, that manages $500 million and serves over 100 families across the United States. In addition to finance, he regularly teaches and speaks on fitness and faith, seeing this as all important aspects of a purposeful and abundant life. And he's here today to empower and educate you to not only become a better investor, but to live more intentionally and create an abundant life. So ladies and gentlemen, help me in welcoming my new friend all the way from Alaska, Chad Hufford.
Joyanne, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me, and appreciate the opportunity to share some of my experience and hope it impacts your audience.
For sure, yeah. I always like to know my guests a bit more before actually meeting them. So I actually did my research, and for someone like you have a very interesting and unique background with decades of experience and education in finance, fitness, and also faith. So, and just I mentioned in the bio, you regularly teach on these three pillars of living an abundant life. So why do you believe that these are the three critical components to work on to live and create an abundant life?
Well, so I am in the financial industry, and I thought that when I started, my job was to make sure people didn't run out of money in retirement, because that's mostly what I do. Most people come to me, they want a retirement plan. They want a strategic plan, a financial blueprint to plan for retirement income. But what I've learned doing this, Joyanne, is that it's more about making sure people don't run out of purpose. Now, if you're always worried about money, it's really hard to live an abundant life. If you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're buried in debt. But wealth by itself does not build an abundant life. There's plenty of people who have a lot of wealth and still live in scarcity. They're worried about using their wealth, they're not worried about using their wealth. They're more worried about losing their wealth. They're not looking at money as a tool or investments as a tool. They're looking at it as the end goal. And I think that is a very destructive way to look at money. Money is not a better life. Being wealthy is not a better life. Wealth and money help you live a better life, but you have to know what's important to you. And that's where I think faith and personal health, fitness comes into that, because if you have tens of millions of dollars, but you're in chronic pain or you have chronic disease, you're not feeling much freedom. You're not feeling much abundance. If you're living in anxiety, if you're living in doom and gloom, there's no joy, there's no abundance, there's no freedom. So I believe it has to be more than just wealth, more than just money. Money allows us a certain amount of freedom to pursue a life of abundance, but there's other pillars, there are other aspects of that. I just happen to professionally get paid to stay in the financial place, but we try to encourage our clients, the folks we work with, to have more meaningful pursuit in a lot of these other areas, because like I said, money is not an end in itself. It's a means to an end. It's a lever, it's a tool that allows you to build a more abundant life only if you do the right steps and you're thinking about life beyond just money.
That is beautiful, yeah, because I believe that we all know famous people, rich people, millionaires, billionaires who are miserable, right? Or they committed suicide, right? So, but again, like money is the driving factor for a lot of people, right? Like, why do we want to build a business? Like, why do we want to work so hard, like invest? So, usually people come to you for financial advice, I would say, and they want to create wealth. They want to become a better investor, right? They want to know where to invest their money. So, how do you then help them? Do you actually help your clients on developing, working on their mindset, finding out what their purpose is, building a legacy? Behind? It's not just about money. Do you actually help your clients do that journey?
We do. In fact, I was just in a meeting right before this talking with clients who have not recently, they retired a few years ago. And I was asking them about what their plans are. Like, what are the biggest things that they're looking forward to in the next year, that are part of that, the faith and fitness and family. Those are some of the other areas that we talk a lot about, because a lot of times people's goals fall under those three categories: faith, fitness, or family. I think that's a lot of life change comes out of those areas. And they were talking about vacations and where they're going to travel and meeting with other family members and getting people together. And they're talking about Thanksgiving. But it's helping people identify what is on the horizon that is deeply meaningful to them. And one of the questions we ask people before we agree to take them on as clients is, if you never had to work another day in your life, if you never had to collect a paycheck ever again, what would you want to be doing? Where would you want to be? And who do you want to become? And getting them to start thinking about that vision of the future. So they're working towards something, they're investing towards a specific objective, but thinking beyond money. Again, money is just a tool to create the life that you want, but you have to be the architect of your own life. You have to design it. I can't tell you what is deeply meaningful to you. I can't tell you what meaningful pursuit looks like to you, but I can help you achieve it. So we have to help them unpack some of that. And it's really hard, as you know, entrepreneurs, you're running a business, you're in the day to day. It's so easy to get stuck in the moment and forget about what you're building towards in the long run. So
No.
part of my job, I think, Joyanne, is giving people permission to dream, to take a step out of their day to day life and think about what do they want their future to look like, and then kind of reverse engineering it from where they want to be to where they are now and building out that pathway in between.
Yeah, for sure, because you need to know where you are going, right? Just like the analogy that I know you like stories and analogies. So it's like you when you get into a car, you need to basically know where you're going. Otherwise, you will not be reaching your destination, or you will be lost, in the jungle, for example. So when should people start planning their financial future? Because I don't really have a background in finance, and that's never what I am interested or passionate about, and I don't like dealing with numbers. So only in my mid 20s, I would say I started learning and just, go on seminars and start learning about investing and things like that. And I started my investment since then. So what would you say, like when is a good time, or for young people, for old people, when should people start planning for their financial future?
Well, there's an old Chinese proverb that says the best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The next
Yeah.
best time is today. So the reason I say that is because the the earlier you start, the easier it is going to be. But even if you're starting late, start now. Don't push it off any longer. So the planning process is a continual thing. You don't put a financial plan together once and then never have to do anything. It's something you have to completely or to continually revise, but you don't completely start from scratch. So you build on an existing plan because goals change. And I believe all financial plans should be based on long-term, specific, and measurable objectives. So it can start as simply as something like this. I want to have X amount of dollars at Y date in the future. So let's just say somebody needs, $8,000 a month to live comfortably, which is about $100,000 a year. I want $8,000 a month by the year 2035 coming in through passive income. That is enough to start the financial planning process because what it does is it gives a specific, measurable objective.
Right.
From that, somebody can reverse engineer where they want to be in the future to where they are right now. And that's what we do that's what we help people with. So where does it start? It's coming up with an income target and it's coming up with a date target. So two numbers, an income and a date. So the income is the amount of income that you would need in today's dollars. Don't worry about inflation yet, but the amount of income that you need to live comfortably without a paycheck. And this isn't to survive. This is to live comfortably, to be able to do the things that people normally won't do because they have to go to work every day. Or maybe they don't have the time, maybe they don't have the finances. But it's thinking about those three questions I asked. Where do you want to be? What do you want to be doing? Who do you want to become? And trying to create some numbers around that, an estimate of what that lifestyle would cost. And coming up with an estimate. That's all it is going to be. It's going to be an educated guess with how much money it's going to take for somebody to live without a paycheck. And then coming up with a date in the future. And a lot of times people pick an age, but psychology has taught us that a date is more tangible than an age. If I just say when I'm 55 or when I'm 60, that's specific and it's measurable and it sounds weird, but if we actually have a date, like July 4th, 2035, that's my financial freedom day, or whatever the date ends up being. But picking a date, there's something more specific and tangible because when I turn 60, that's a whole year. Like the age 60, that's a year. A date is specific and it triggers something on our mind to make it a little bit more tangible. So the financial planning process starts with an income target and a date. Now you have something measurable and you can reverse engineer from that date in the future to figure out what do you need to do today to stay on track. I mean, it's kind of like what you guys were doing when you took your trek on the Everest Base Camp. You had a destination and you were trying to pace yourself, right? And you said some people got there sooner than others, but what it does, Joanne, is it keeps you heading in the right direction. Some people may be going faster than others, but it keeps you from drifting off the path. So you get this financial roadmap that keeps you motivated and gives you small little wins along the way. But like you said about your journey, it's about the process. We can't make it all about the destination. The destination guides the process. It guides the roadmap, but the roadmap itself is what gives us some confidence to build our future.
Yeah, exactly. Totally. So talking about setting goals and having a deadline, a date, and how much money you want to make, right? How realistic should we be when it comes to setting financial goals? Because some people might say, I want to make $1 million by end of the year, things like that, right? How realistic should we be when it comes to setting goals financially?
Well, it depends on how hard you want to work. If somebody says, yeah, I want $1 million a year in retirement, I can tell you in a few minutes exactly how much work it'll take for you to get there. But most people won't be willing to pay the price. So I do encourage people to dream big, especially if they're younger. But if I'm just going to make up an example, like if you gave me a number and said, okay, I want to retire or at least have the option to retire, a job optional lifestyle at a certain date, a certain age. And we run the numbers. I say, Joanne, okay, you need to save $10,000 a month to get there. Are you willing to do that? Are you willing to do the work necessary to save $10,000 a month, or whatever the number ends up being? So any future destination, any future goal has a cost today. And that's the beautiful thing about having a plan, is it allows you to weigh the costs. How much work do you need to do this month in order to stay on track with your long-term goal 10, 20, 30 years out ahead of you? And some people come up with these big goals and we say, okay, well, here's what you need to do to stay on track. And they're like, oh, I can't do that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. But you are in the driver's seat. You are the one making the decision. So what we want to do is iterate this process enough times that we come up with a balance between what you're willing to sacrifice in the present for where you want to be in the future, where you're not sacrificing too much of either thing, either living too much in the moment so your future is sacrificed, or living so much in the future that your present is sacrificed. It's creating a compromise, a marriage, if you will, between those two things, where you're serving your future self without sacrificing your current self too much.
You talk about future self a lot. So how do we, like, future self, as in, we need to have goals or dreams or even visions for how we want to live our life and who do we want to be, right? 5 years down the road or 10 years down the road. How do we establish a good relationship with our future self so that we are still, I would say, staying present, like in our day-to-day life? We are not just dreaming and, visualizing, right, about our future and how great it's going to be, but we are also focusing on, like, I shared in my solo episode, like focusing on the step right in front of us
Yes.
while also, having that big picture in mind.
Well, it's a little bit of a paradox there, right? Because if you're only looking at the summit, you're going to trip on what's in front of you.
Yeah.
So it's a constant process of going back and forth, looking at where you're stepping today and where you want to end up in the future. And it is a balance. It takes a balance. We can't just do one or the other. If we're always looking right in front of us, we're probably going to not have a clear vision of the future. It's really hard to select the right path if we don't know where we're going.
Mm.
But if we're always looking at the finish line, or always looking at the long-term goal, not only do we miss the journey, but we'll probably get tripped up along the way. So I think everybody should have a blueprint for their life. And what I mean by that is something that connects the future to the present. So you think about a long-term goal, and it doesn't even have to be money related. It could be fitness related or business related, but some sort of a plan that connects your future objectives with your actions today. So you can stay present and act on the future. So let's just talk about like a fitness example. If somebody is trying to get stronger or lose weight, we want to make it specific, because get stronger, lose weight, that's not specific, it's not measurable. But if I want to lose 10 pounds in 3 months, that is specific and measurable. Maybe it's a really long-term goal. Maybe it's somebody who needs to lose 50 pounds in 2 years. Okay. Well, what are the current actions that are going to leverage that result? And coming up with a diet and an exercise program. But the nice thing about that too, though, is there's a finite amount of work that needs to be done. They don't have to be at the gym for 8 hours, and they still get to eat some foods that they enjoy. But what you're doing is you're putting some constraints, some guidelines around it, and saying, this is what you need to execute today and tomorrow and next week and next month to become the person you want to be in 2 years or 5 years or 10 years or whatever that ends up being. But it is finite. It's not lose as much weight as I can. It's lose 50 pounds in 2 years. It's not build my business as big as it can be. It's I want to increase my revenue by $100,000 in 6 months, or whatever the goal is. We make it specific, we make it measurable, and then we can create a plan that takes that future goal and it brings it into today's actions. It connects outcomes with what I do today. And what that does, it helps develop a better relationship with our future, so we can find that balance where we're living and enjoying the moment without sacrificing the future.
Right. So, what are some of the most, I would say, common mistakes or misconceptions in investing and financial planning that you see a lot of people are making or thinking? Like, let's say, the one that I can think right away is people think when it comes to investment, you need to have a lot of money, right? That's one. But what about some of the other one that you have heard over the years, or
Well, what you just said is a really good one. I think what that does, it causes people to delay.
Mm,
So it's like, well, it's kind of like somebody saying, I don't want to go to the gym until I'm in better shape. Like, I want to lose weight before I go to the gym. No, no, no. You go to the gym so you can lose weight. And you, whatever your goals are, whether it's fitness goals, faith goals, business goals, start with where you are today. I believe your future begins today. You will never, again, like, you can plant a tree 20 years ago. We don't have that chance. So your next best time is to plant that tree today. Start your new future immediately. And be okay with starting small. So you don't get wealthy and then start to invest.
yeah.
You build wealth by starting to invest. And it does start small.
Mm,
There's no $1 that makes you wealthy. There's no one push-up that makes you fit. It's the slow build, the accumulation effect of all those things over time. Um, so I guess, yeah, people feeling like they need a certain amount of wealth to begin. Another big mistake that people make is collecting investments and thinking they're investing. What I mean by this is they don't have a strategic goal. So they're really just accumulating investments rather than strategically investing towards a desired outcome. It'd be like building a house without a blueprint. You're just picking tools and buying materials, slapping them together. There's nothing guiding this process. And maybe you've accumulated enough, but there's no way of knowing without a strategic plan. And what also happens is people end up gambling and speculating with their money,
yeah.
thinking that they're investing. They're putting their money into things that really aren't true investments, or at least aren't the right investments for them, because they don't have a strategic plan. They don't know any better. So they heard about somebody putting their money in this thing or that thing,
Yeah.
and they do it because there really isn't anything more than what is popular
Mm.
guiding their investing decisions. So what is popular, what is easy, what is convenient ends up guiding their investing decisions rather than what is purposeful and what is intentional.
Right. Yeah, that leads me to the next question, which is, there are many types of investment, I mean, with investment vehicles in today's world, right? How do we go about choosing the right one, like making the right decisions when it comes to building wealth? And you just mentioned, right? And interesting, because I had dinner with a friend on Saturday night, and we're just talking. He shared that back in 2017, a well-known public figure that we all know, but I'm not going to mention name, who authored one of the best-selling books on finance and wealth building. And that famous person actually asked my friend to follow him to invest in crypto. However, my friend chose not to due to fear, and uncertainty. He didn't even know what it was all about. So now, and over dinner, he told me he kind of somewhat, regrets that decision. So returning to my question, like, how do we make informed decisions and manage our risk effectively when it comes to investing and making the right investment?
I think all of our investment decisions should be weighed through the lens, or be looked at through the lens of our long-term plan.
Mm,
Here's what I'm trying to build. Does this tool fit? Does this tactic fit what I'm trying to do? And a lot of times you'll see it doesn't. There's a lot of investments out there that might be fine for somebody else, but don't fit your long-term goals. So any investing decision should be viewed through the lens of what is your objective. It all starts with a long-term goal and then the plan to get there. Just like business decisions. I know you work with a lot of entrepreneurs. Um, Before we make an action today, we want to study and clarify, what do we want this action to produce in the future? And investing is the same way. We don't pick an invest. We, at least it should be.
mm.
We come up with a desired outcome, then choose an investment that fits, rather than choosing an investment and then trying to twist it into a desired outcome. And the other thing about investing is your investments need to produce something. So things like gold,
Mhm.
silver, even currency, they don't produce anything, which means the only way for you to make money is to be able to guess and time temporary price fluctuations. Now, you can make a lot of money in gold and crypto
Yeah.
and things like that, but you have to be able to buy them and sell them at the right time.
Mm-hmm.
When you buy companies through mutual funds or even buying real estate,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not recommending those for anybody, I'm just using those as an example because, again, this should be based on your individual financial needs. But if you buy an apartment complex, you don't need the price to go up necessarily. You just need to keep it rented. And as long as your rents increase, you will get wealthier, regardless of what the value of the apartment complex is. If you invest in companies, you buy companies, yes, you want the value of those companies to go up over time, but financial freedom is an income issue. It's not a principal problem. It's not about how much all your investments are worth at any given time. It's about how much income they produce. That's what creates financial independence. So people need to be planning for investments that build the income that they need to produce financial independence, financial freedom.
You're talking about passive income, right? Okay, cool. So, and you also mentioned that I can't remember where I saw this or read this, but you mentioned that the belief to whom much is given, much is expected. How do you like? How do you? I would say, how do you yourself contribute? Give back to your country, your community, right? And how do you encourage your clients to do the same?
Well, I believe that I am uniquely blessed in so many different ways. And every single day, I write a gratitude list, just reminding myself of all the things I've been given. But I don't believe those things were given for me to enjoy by myself. I believe the things I've been given, whether it's time or abilities or resources, or even my own family, my children. I don't believe my own children are just for me to enjoy. I believe that God gave me those kids to impact the community and the world around us. And I'm looking at it as a way to take what I've been blessed with and bless others. I believe blessings in our life are designed to be a river that flows through us, not a lake. Because a lake gets stagnant. If our blessings, if our resources just sit there and do nothing, it gets stagnant. And that we don't want a stagnant life. A river is renewed. It's flowing through us. It's refreshing, right? And that's the picture that we try to paint. So one of the ways I give back is by doing podcasts like this, taking the information and knowledge and sharing it with others, because I know how it's changed my life. I know how it's changed the lives of our clients. I want to share that. Every Sunday morning, almost every Sunday morning, I teach a class at church. I do a lot of volunteer work around that. And we encourage our clients to do the same. In fact, the couple I was mentioning earlier that recently retired, they were talking about taking these lessons and teaching it to their kids and their grandkids, making it multi-generational. And unfortunately, we don't talk very much about money. In our culture
Yeah.
here in the United States, you're not supposed to ask people how much money they make and things like that. And we don't need to necessarily talk about it in those detailed terms, but I think we should share our wins, our victories, but also be vulnerable about our mistakes. Let other people learn from the things we did right and the things we did wrong. And it's being generous with not just our money, but with our information, with our life experiences. Like I said, being vulnerable and allowing other people to take what we've learned and to utilize that and leverage that themselves. There's a phrase, I can't remember who said it, but they basically said the reason that they were successful is they were standing on the shoulders of giants. They they were given a platform and a place because the people that came before them. I believe that what I have today was because the people that came before me and sacrificed so I could have the life that I have. So I want to pay that forward.
It's beautiful. And it's very interesting you talk about that we don't really talk about money in our family, right? And I mean, this is true in my own culture as well, in my own family. And every time we talk about money, is like we worrying about money, like,
Yep.
how much money we
It's a
get.
negative
Yeah,
conversation.
exactly. Yeah. So how do we shift, I would say, our money mindset or cultivate a healthier mindset or conversation when it comes to money, whether it's with our family, partners, friends, or kids? How do you teach your kids to cultivate a healthier mindset around money?
Well, I think the first thing we have to do is just normalize it. So
Mm,
you talked in one of your recent podcasts about overcoming fear by exposure.
yeah.
And we need to overcome the awkwardness of talking about money by talking about money. And not doing it in a way that is boastful or full of anxiety. We can go either extreme there,
Yeah.
but just to normalize it, talk about a financial goal, talk about a financial frustration. We talk to our kids about things that we are planning for, and we've just normalized that conversation in our house. Um, our kids know that if they need money for something, they need to find jobs to do. We've just talked to them about that. And Joanne, I'm not saying that we have it all figured out as parents, but we at least have created an environment where our kids freely talk about money, and they involve us in some of the things that they're trying to do financially, and we involve them. When we were saving to build our house, and even in the process of building, we didn't give them the details, the amounts, but we were very clear that we were going to do some things differently, cut out some things while we were building the house to reduce the amount of debt that we had to take out, because we wanted to pay it off as quickly as possible.
Mm-hmm.
And and we were explaining like how wonderful this house was going to be and the new experiences we were going to have, but there was a price to pay. So we were going to cut out some things over here to have more experiences over there. And like I said, they didn't need to know the details, the dollars and cents,
Mm-hmm.
but the concept of the trade-off. And now it was like a family mission together. We were going to make some short-term sacrifices for a long-term benefit. And they felt a part of it. They had buy-in. They were no longer spectators in what my wife and I were doing financially. They were participants in this mission together. If you don't have kids, it doesn't. I mean, I gave you that example because I think it's easiest to start with kids. But even in your own friend circles, if you were to ask people, do you make a habit of regularly sacrificing for your future self? That's a great conversation starter. Some people will be like, "What do you mean sacrificing for my future self? What are you talking about, Joanne?" Or asking people, you know, what are their frustrations around money, and sharing some of your own. So part of it is, if we're going to normalize these conversations, a lot of times we have to lead.
Yeah.
We have to be the ones to step out and be like, man, I had a really frustrating experience with my bank about this certain thing, or I have not been paying attention to my credit score and I did some things that negatively impacted it, and I wish I would have done it. So a lot of times, if we are going to invite people into these conversations, we have to be the ones being vulnerable first. We have to be the ones that kind of step up and say, I'm sharing what I'm working on, what I'm struggling with. And then it's amazing how many people will share those exact same or very similar struggles, and you've just given them permission to share.
Yeah.
You've given them permission to put their stuff out there, be like, oh my goodness, I had a very similar experience, or I'm afraid of the same thing. I thought it was just me. And when we can be vulnerable, we give permission to other people to have courage.
Yeah. And it's not just that, like when we are being vulnerable, we are also giving ourselves the permission to share our struggles, because like how often do we actually talk about our struggles? Not that very often, right? And it's not just like you said, it's not just finance, but maybe your health issue, right? Your
Right.
relationship issue, your business struggles. Like you said, how do we create an abundant life is to take care of all aspects of our life, right? And that is how we create an abundant life. Okay, so we talk about so many things in our conversation. What is really the key message that you want my listeners who are listening to this right now to take away from this episode?
Your life is not going to get better by accident. It takes a plan, and it takes consistent execution of that plan. But it doesn't have to take a huge step forward. A lot of small steps in the right direction add up over time. So start coming up with the choices that you need to make differently to get from where you are to the person you want to become. That's my
Mm,
advice.
I love that question. So let's go even further. I mean, okay, so what is one small action that you want my listeners to do after they listen to this episode? They put out their phone, they go back to their day-to-day life. What is one action they can take today to move forward, just slightly, forward towards their goal?
I think it would be picking a specific long-term goal,
Mm-hmm.
make it measurable and specific,
Okay.
and then find one action, one habit that they can commit to start moving in that direction.
Okay. The more we talk, right, the more question I have. So, we all have goals, we all have dreams. We all, I would say, most people, right? At least people who listen to my podcast, we all have goals, we all have dreams. And the reason why we don't achieve goals and dreams is because we are not being consistent, and we are not taking consistent action, I would say. And sometimes, even for myself, let's say if I have fitness goal, I want to go to the gym like every day, but sometimes I just don't feel like going to the gym, or I just don't feel like, just feel like taking a break, right? um so which is why eventually I don't achieve my goal. So how do we make sure that we stay consistent? That's why I say, in taking the right action so that we reach the goal, by the timeline or the deadline that we set for ourselves.
I think a lot of times it is giving ourselves the permission to start small,
Mm-hmm.
to start with small actions. A lot of times people think like, what is the one big thing that will get me to the place I want to be? Get me to my goal. What is the one big thing? That's the wrong question. The question should be, what is the smallest step that I can take to get started on that journey?
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of us stay on the sidelines of our own life, waiting for permission to be invited in to the arena, to again to take that big step. But a long journey starts with one small step. And too often we wait and don't do anything because we feel like that step isn't big enough. So, giving ourselves permission to start small and also breaking down a long term goal into small bite sized pieces. So, just if you were to think about your travels um, around the Everest base camps. If you would have thought about all of the climbing and all of the walking, all of the hiking you have to do, it'd be overwhelming.
Yeah.
But you just took one step at a time.
Mm-hmm.
And some of our goals can be overwhelming if we don't break them down into small, measurable, manageable pieces and then celebrate those pieces. Don't worry about somebody trying to lose 50 pounds. Celebrate the fact that you went to the gym today. It might not have been for a full hour. It might have been 15 minutes. Maybe you just jogged around the block. But starting habits reminds yourself that you're the types of sorry. Starting small habits will remind you that you're the type of person who does the right thing.
Mm.
And those habits build over time. You may not be able to save $10,000 a month or $5,000 a month or even $1,000 a month, but by saving 50, you're giving yourself tangible proof. I'm the type of person who sacrifices for their future, who puts their future needs and desires in an important priority in their life today. And those things build slowly over time.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing all your expertise. I'm learning so much from you personally, not just finance, but also like how we think about our future self. How we think about what we need to do today, and things like that. I'm learning so much from you. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and expertise abundantly with our listeners today. Now we always end with our final five rapid fire questions. So these are questions that I ask all my guests at the end of the episode. Now, every question has to be answered in one word or one sentence maximum.
Okay.
First question is, what is one thing you wish you knew earlier?
Being a student doesn't end when you get your degree.
If you could live your life all over again, what would you do differently?
Nothing. I have things that it's a hard one to answer. I'm sorry. I know it's supposed to be one word, but
No, it's okay.
all of my mistakes have made me who I am today, and I've learned from them. I've tried to learn from them. And I have things that I wish went differently, but if I had to go back and change them, I wouldn't be the same person I am today. So, um, yeah, sorry. Go on with your questions.
No, no, actually, yeah, I mean, that's true because even for myself, I made some terrible mistake in my investment journey, right? Okay, this is not going to be a one word or one sentence answer, but how do you help people, or even like, how do you personally overcome those mistakes that you made in the past when it comes to maybe you lost a lot of money, right? You made a bad choice on investment, you lost a lot of money. How do you get over it?
I think you analyze it and look, what can we learn from this experience?
Mm-hmm.
And I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. And on some level, I wish I never made them, but on another level, those mistakes might be saving me, if I can learn from them, might be saving me from an even bigger mistake in the future. And mistakes, if we are willing to learn from them, if we're willing to be vulnerable and humble, mistakes can actually make us better if we allow them to change us. But a lot of times people live in fear of mistakes, fear of failure, things like that. Sorry, I'm getting long-winded now, but I love the life that I have right now. I love the opportunities in front of me. And I think all my failures, all my mistakes have shaped me into who I am. And some of those things still need to change. I'm still working on a lot of things. So that's a hard question to answer, but I wouldn't want to change anything because I've had so many great lessons along the way.
If you learn them, yeah. Exactly. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah, it's okay to be long-winded. The next question is, what is something you are trying to learn or curious about right now?
How to promote a book.
Yeah, we haven't talked about your book yet. Okay, I will let you promote your book at the end of this, before we end this. If you have 5 minutes and the whole world is listening to you on stage, let's say, what would you say?
Remind people they have agency. They are the biggest variable in the trajectory of their life.
Wow. The last question is, what brings you the greatest joy?
My family. I have 6 kids and a beautiful, loving wife.
6 kids. Wow. Okay, I didn't know
Yes.
that. Now, tell my listeners where they can find you or connect with you or learn more about your book. When is it going to be launching? And what is it about?
It's Forging Financial Freedom. It's about everything we've talked about today: being intentional, being consistent, having a plan, having a pathway, surrounding yourself with the right type of people that are going to push you forward. So that will be released in April. So they can pre-order right now at forgingfinancialfreedom.com. My website is veritasalaska.com. We work with people all over the United States, but we were founded here in Alaska, so veritasalaska.com. And of course, they can also find us on like Instagram, LinkedIn. Been pretty good about, just recently, been pretty good about getting encouraging and empowering content up there on Instagram. So feel free to follow us there.
Yeah. All right, guys. I hope you learned a lot from today's episode. I know you do because you are listening all the way to the very end. So go follow Chad Hufford. Go to his website, buy his book. And if you're listening, please take a screenshot and let me know what do you like the most. What was your biggest takeaway from today's episode? And if you're not following me, also follow me on Instagram at joanne.chan and make sure you hit the subscribe button so you never miss another episode coming to you every Wednesday. And I will always leave you the same way as I leave with every other episode. Show up. The world needs you and you need you. Thanks for listening, and I wish you all a joyful and amazing day ahead. Thank you again for tuning to Find Joy with Joanne podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can help support this podcast in one of 3 ways. 1. Take a screenshot of this episode and share it on your IG story and tag me at findjoyjoanne_podcast so I can repost and connect with you. 2. Share this podcast with a friend or a family member. And 3. Leave a positive review on Apple Podcasts so we can continue to grow and reach more listeners worldwide. Make sure you also subscribe so you don't miss out on any episode coming Wednesday. Thanks for being here, and I will see you soon in the next episode.